Hi folks, David Zublik here. I wanted to take a few minutes to address a scandal that is rocking the nation's capital as well as the entire United States. A scandal that involves the highest echelons in our society, the highest portals of government, the highest levels of the entertainment industry and beyond. It's called PizzaGate. By now you may have heard about it. You might not know a whole heck of a lot about it. The hashtag PizzaGate has been bandied about for quite some time. But it is a major scandal, and I wanted to kind of break it down for you a little bit today if I could. I want to take you back about 3 years to 2013 because a major figure within the talk radio industry has known about this scandal since 2013, but has sat on it and done nothing about it, probably because his life had been threatened. You might remember that Glenn Beck promised about 3 years ago, after being shown some documents, that he was going to, on a Friday edition of his radio show, break open a scandal which would take down the United States government. It would take down the power structure throughout the nation's capital. We were told back then that when this information was presented, that it was so extreme that the blood literally ran out of the faces of everyone at the Blaze network that Glenn Beck owns when they found out about it. He announced that he would be going into more detail on all of this the following day. It would have been a Friday. And that you might recall, Friday came and went, and there wasn't a single mention of it. We are being told that immediately after Glenn's broadcast on Thursday, Glenn Beck received the most serious, in-the-flesh death threat to both he and his family he'd ever received in his career. In fact, the threat was so severe that it altered the course of his life and of his network. And you may recall that it was shortly after that time that Beck began to suffer what appeared to be a mental breakdown. To the point now where he's been, trashing all things conservative and pretty much going rogue from the conservative radio talk show that he used to be. You remember the changes that took place in his life, his personality, his health. Well, it's due to this information that he had to sit on in order to protect the lives of his family, himself, and perhaps his business associates, that this was kept in the dark. PizzaGate was that scandal. It involves underage sex, it involves sex trafficking, and it involves organ harvesting. It goes back to a guy by the name of Jeffrey Epstein, who is an American financier and convicted sex offender. He worked at Bear Stearns early in his career and then formed his own firm, J. Epstein and Company, in 2008. He was convicted of soliciting an underage girl for prostitution, for which he served 13 months in prison. Jeffrey Epstein had an island which was nicknamed Orgy Island and a private plane known as, the Lolita Express, and people traveled on that plane, some of the biggest names in politics, some of the biggest names in business, some of the biggest names in the entertainment industry. Names such as John Podesta, the Podesta brothers, who might have been involved in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. That's for another video. But what we're talking about here is the Clintons. We're talking about Congress people, senators, judges, big names in politics and in entertainment that traveled on this private plane to Orgy Island and engaged in sex with underage kids. It also has come to light that a restaurant, a pizza place, Comet Pizza, might have been the hub or the headquarters for the trafficking that was going on. We also are being told that Hillary Clinton, who has a penchant for underage girls, also visited Orgy Island and engaged in sex acts with underage girls. And, of course, her husband Bill did as well. This scandal involves the power elite and people who have the wherewithal to silence those who would threaten to come to light with this information. Well, one such individual who was very close to exposing this was Andrew Breitbart. And Andrew Breitbart was killed, was murdered. It was made to look like a heart attack, but he was murdered when he threatened to expose this information about John Podesta and the Clintons involving this sex trafficking. But the sex trafficking is only part of the process here. What they were also doing was killing these underage children who have gone missing, disappeared, and have never been found, and harvesting their organs and giving them to those in the elite who may be suffering from certain organ failures and who had the wherewithal to purchase healthy new organs to replace the ones that they had. And that's why this is so horrible. And you've been seeing a lot about it on the internet. Only the alternative media has been covering it. The mainstream media has refused to even touch it. As a matter of fact, the internet site Reddit has banned all references and conversation about PizzaGate on their site. And they've done so because they think that it's nothing more than a witch hunt. And they don't want, and certain people involved within Reddit know that this scandal is real and they do not want this information to go public. If this thing explodes into the major scandal that it purports to be, many people will be brought down. The entire United States government could come to a crashing halt. Now, you might recall that there was a tweet that was sent out by Andrew Breitbart in 2011, in February of 2011, indicating that John Podesta had skeletons in his closet with regard to underage girls. That tweet was republished mysteriously this week by somebody using Breitbart's own Twitter account, even though Andrew Breitbart is dead. How did that happen? Why is this information getting out there? You might also recall that several weeks ago, it was rumored that an indictment was going to be handed down prior to the election, and arrests were going to be made of Hillary Clinton, Anthony Weiner, and several people involved in this email scandal. Well, part of the process of arresting these people was going to involve code words that were found in emails on Anthony Weiner's and Uma Abedin's computers, code words for underage, for child sex, for pedophilia. Well, as it turns out, that was also going on at the same time that FBI Director James Comey had come out and said that he was going to re-examine these 650,000 emails that he had previously closed the door on this investigation into the email scandal back in July, saying there was nothing there, and then he was going to revisit it. He managed to go, it took him several months to come to the conclusion that he had to reopen this investigation. And all of a sudden he decided to do it on this one weekend, and then by Sunday afternoon, he sent out another letter saying there was nothing there. Well, somebody got to him and made him go dark and go silent and stand down about this, because not so much the email scandals involving Benghazi and everything else, but about the child sex trafficking information that was uncovered. And apparently the New York City Police Department was also looking into these emails with regard to child sex trafficking. The FBI ordered the New York City Police Department to send them all of the documentation and all of the emails that they had in their own separate investigation, and to drop the investigation at that point. That was just prior to the election on November 8th. And of course, as we know, the election took place. Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by securing the 270 electoral votes needed to be elected president of the United States. Whether or not this investigation is going to be brought up again, we don't know. Donald Trump had indicated during the course of the campaign that he was going to do something about this investigation, possibly indicting her, possibly using a special prosecutor to look into Hillary Clinton. But then, subsequent to being elected, he suddenly decides he doesn't want to hurt them. Could it be that what he was told could be information that could bring down the entire government and people that he needs to be able to do business with in order to govern as president of the United States? And by going after Hillary, these other people will be brought down as well. Maybe some people in business, maybe some people in the entertainment industry that Donald Trump knows. And so therefore, he has decided at this point to more or less back off on that. It could be. Another thing you need to be aware of is that there is a concerted effort going on right now in the government to normalize pedophilia. And the idea behind it is to no longer consider consider pedophilia as a mental illness with criminal repercussions if adults engage in sex with children, but rather to make it a lifestyle choice, if you will. There are organizations such as NAMBLA and others that are crawling out of the woodwork saying that pedophilia should no longer be considered a mental illness, but should be considered an alternative lifestyle choice and should be recognized as normal. And part of the reason why the idea of gay marriage was shoved down everyone's throats over the course of the last couple of years and made the law of the land was to be a stepping stone to the possibility of also having to accept the idea of pedophilia as somewhat normal. I know that sounds a little far-fetched, but I think that that is what is going on here. And I think that in the days and weeks and months ahead, if the alternative media manages to stay on top of this story, if they manage to continue to cover it, this scandal will be broken wide open. The mainstream media will not touch it. They will go absolutely nowhere with this. It's going to have to be the alternative media that pushes the narrative on PizzaGate. There's so much more to be read about it. We have articles about it on our website, but I wanted you to be very clear on this. This is what's happening. It involves the Clintons. It involves members of Congress. It involves people in the business industry and in the entertainment industry, and it could bring down Washington, D.C. if it gets fully exposed as it is supposed to. We, of course, will keep you posted on this. In the meantime, we want to remind you that if you are a fan of the America Talks radio program, you can help support us by going to our website, americatalks.com, or our other website, truthunsealed.com, and click the banner ad at the top of the page to go to foodforliberty.com. Food for Liberty, we have partnered with them to sell their products. They sell storable food. They sell water filtration systems. They sell camping supplies and survival gear, everything you need to protect you and your family in the event of a national or even a local emergency. So go to foodforliberty.com/David Z, foodforliberty.com/David Z, or go to our websites, americatalks.com or truthunsealed.com, and click the banner ad at the top of the page to go to foodforliberty.com/David Z. Check out their products and services. This is David Zublik. We will talk again real soon.